I am the last to remember what love felt like before duty, before the protocols, before we became instruments of genetic perfection. My name is Tavorian of the Fourth Colony, and I have committed the greatest crime in Valari history. I chose love over the Spyro. Now, as our ships descend toward the blue world, I speak this final transmission, not for my people, but for the hybrid children who will one day need to understand. We were not always your gods.
That transmission was embedded in the deepest layers of the fourth signal. Genetic memory encoded in human DNA 90,000 years ago. Dr. Mira Solen wasn't the first to hear it, but she was the first to understand what it meant. This is transmission 2 of the fourth signal files. I'm Liam Erswell, and today we're diving deeper into the cave that changed everything. Today's file, echoes from 90,000 years ago, recovered from what Aerolink Industries classified as Alien Archive 7 Alpha. Genetic memories that shouldn't exist, telling a love story that changed the galaxy. In our first transmission, we heard Dr. Mira Solen activate something ancient in the depths of the Cueva de los Tallos. We heard her grandfather Eduardo's mysterious disappearance 15 years earlier. We heard the first stirrings of what the files call the awakening. But Mira's story and her grandfather's disappearance weren't isolated incidents. That's what the deeper files reveal. Between 1987 and 2019, 12 archaeologists vanished while investigating sites connected to what would later be identified as the Fourth Signal Network. 12 locations, 12 bloodlines, 12 people whose DNA carried the same spiral markers that Dr. Leonidas would later find in Mira's genetic profile. Let's start with the pattern. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Dr. Heinrich Weber, found dead under mysterious circumstances in 2014, just as he was preparing to publish findings about impossible genetic material in the site's oldest layers.
The genetic samples from Layer 3 show modifications that predate known civilization by thousands of years. Someone was here, yeah? Someone was changing us. But who had this knowledge before we even knew DNA existed?
Dr. Weber died of an apparent heart attack 3 days after sending that audio file to his research partner in Berlin. Official cause, natural causes. But his medical records show he'd had a clean cardiac workup just 1 month prior. Dr. Sarah Chen, Nabta Playa, Egypt, 2009. She'd been mapping the stone circle alignments, 7,000-year-old astronomical markers more complex than Stonehenge. Her final transmission came through her satellite phone at 3:17 a.m. local time.
The stones aren't just marking star positions. They're marking gene positions. Stellar DNA mapped onto human chromosomes. How did they know? How could they know what we'd only discover in the 21st century?
Chen was reported to have disappeared days later by her Bedouin guides. Her body was found, dehydrated, despite being found next to her untouched water supply. Her GPS showed she hadn't moved more than 50 meters from her camp. Professor James Macready, the Orkney Islands, Skara Brae excavation, 2003. 5,000-year-old Neolithic village, but Macready found something that shattered the timeline.
The DNA samples from the midden heaps show human genetic patterns that shouldn't exist for another 3,000 years. Evolution doesn't work this fast, not naturally, not without intervention. Something was accelerating human development, and it left signatures in the bone college.
Macready disappeared during a night dig. His equipment found arranged in a perfect spiral pattern around the excavation site. Local police found no footprints leading away. Only the spiral of tools, with Macready's journal in the center, open to a page that showed the same glyph pattern Mira would later activate in Ecuador. Dr. Esperanza Reyes, Ica, Peru, 2017. She was analyzing the controversial tridactyl mummies discovered in diatomaceous earth caves near Nazca. Specimens with elongated skulls and three-fingered hands that had divided the scientific community. What she found in their tissue samples changed everything.
The metal implants weren't the strangest part. It was the genetic material. DNA sequences that matched the patterns Eduardo Solén documented in Ecuador before his disappearance. But these specimens, they are showing the intermediate stage, the bridge between human and something else. The same spiral sequences but active, not dormant. Madre de Dios, these aren't hoaxes, they are prototypes.
Dr. Reyes was Mira Solén's doctoral advisor. The connection wasn't coincidental. The tridactyl specimens, found preserved in caves lined with diatomaceous earth, some containing metallic implants of unknown origin, had been dismissed by mainstream archaeology as elaborate hoaxes. But Reyes's genetic analysis revealed something that made her the target of the same forces that had claimed Eduardo Solén 15 years earlier. But here's where the files reveal something extraordinary. Of those 12 bloodlines affected, 3 families have maintained oral traditions about the Star People for generations. Traditions dismissed by mainstream academia as mythology, until genetic analysis proved they were actually inherited memories. The Solén family emigrated from the Basque region of Spain to Ecuador in 1847. But they carried more than possessions. They carried stories. Stories about ancestors who heard the mountains singing and could speak with the lights in the sky. Eduardo Solén's grandfather, Miquel, kept detailed journals of family memories going back 12 generations. In 1963, he gave these journals to his grandson with a warning, and we have a copy of it.
Nieto mio, the blood remembers what the mind forgets. When the time comes and the caves begin singing again, our family will know what to do. We are the keepers of the spiral song. But beware, others will come who want to steal the music for themselves.
Miquel died that same year, but not before making Eduardo promise to listen for what he called the frequency that calls to the blood. The Macready clan of the Orkney Islands maintained similar traditions. James Macready's grandmother, Moira, passed down stories that now sound prophetic.
My great-grandmother told me the stones at Skara Brae weren't built by our people alone. There were others, tall folk with eyes like starlight, who taught us to read the patterns in our blood. She said they'd marked us, changed us, prepared us. And she said they'd return when the world was ready to remember its true history.
The Reyes family lineage traces back to the Inca, but their traditions speak of even older connections.
Los antepasados de las estrellas. The star ancestors. They didn't just visit our people, mija. They became part of our people. Their music flows in our veins. When the time comes, you will hear the harmony calling you home. But remember, not all the star singers want what's best for Earth's children.
These weren't random folklore traditions. When Aerolink Industries' genetic team analyzed blood samples from the Solén, Macready and Reyes bloodlines, they found identical modifications in their mitochondrial DNA. Changes occurring precisely in the sequences that control neural development and electromagnetic sensitivity. Dr. Patricia Vance, the geneticist who analyzed these samples, made an unsettling discovery.
The genetic modifications in these bloodlines aren't random mutations. They're engineered, specifically designed to enhance sensitivity to electromagnetic frequencies in the 432 Hz range, the same frequency range we first detected from the Cueva de los Tallos. These families weren't just carrying traditions, they were carrying genetic instructions, dormant until the right signal activated them.
Instructions for what? That's where the archived memories become crucial. Because when Dr. Mira Solén activated that first glyph, she wasn't just switching on alien technology. She was accessing a love story that began 90,000 years ago, with two beings who chose to betray their entire species for the sake of something they'd never seen. Human potential. Now we come to the most extraordinary testimony in the Fourth Signal archives. The account of Dr. Katerina Volkov, the hydrobiologist who claims to have been inside the Valari collective consciousness and lived to tell about it. Dr. Volkov was part of the Russian Academy's deep-water research team, investigating anomalous sonar readings in Lake Baikal in 2019. What they found in the world's deepest freshwater lake wasn't natural.
At 1,200 meters depth, our sensors detected structures that shouldn't exist in Baikal. Perfect geometric formations made of what looked like living crystal, but nothing like the lake's natural formations. As we approached in the submersible, the structures began to sing.
Sing?
That's the only way to describe it. Harmonics that penetrated the hull, the water, our bodies. But it wasn't just sound, it was communication. Direct mind-to-mind contact with something vast and ancient and impossibly beautiful. I found myself elsewhere. Not physically elsewhere, consciously elsewhere, inside a vast network of interconnected minds, all singing in perfect harmony. The Valari collective consciousness, what they call the deep stream.
According to Dr. Volkov's account, the Valari aren't just another alien species. They're the galactic archivists, beings who've made it their mission to preserve the memories and experiences of every conscious species in the galaxy.
They showed me memories that span millions of years. The rise and fall of civilizations across thousands of worlds. But also the connections. How every conscious species is part of a larger pattern, a galactic symphony where each voice adds to the harmony. Except, there was discord in the symphony, a note of rebellion, the memory of someone who had chosen to break the pattern, to plant something unauthorized in the galactic design. The Valari collective was divided. Some viewed it as contamination of natural development. others as the most beautiful act of love they'd ever witnessed.
During her 6 hours inside the collective consciousness, Dr. Volkov gained access to the complete archive of what the Valari called the deviation, the moment when one of their own chose love over duty and changed the course of galactic evolution.
I saw him, Tavorian, a Valari archivist assigned to observe a joint military operation between his people and another species called the Greys. He wasn't supposed to feel anything. Valari are trained from birth to observe without emotional attachment. But he met someone, Elia, a Grey tactical specialist. Their species were different in every way. The Valari all about preservation and memory. The Greys focused on precision and control. But somehow, they found harmony. Not just romantic love, though that was part of it. Intellectual harmony. A shared vision of what consciousness could become if it wasn't constrained by the rules their civilizations had established.
What kind of rules?
The Valari preserve but never interfere. The Greys guide, but never allow true independence. There are other species too, the Zurtha, who believe in controlled chaos. Each civilization had their own approach to shepherding younger species, but they all shared one assumption, that developing species needed guidance, that consciousness couldn't be trusted to evolve on its own. But Tavorian and Elia discovered something else. Love isn't just an emotion to species like theirs. It's a frequency, a harmonic resonance between consciousness that creates something greater than the sum of its parts. Together, they achieved a resonance so perfect, it created a new signal pattern, one that could preserve individual identity while enabling collective consciousness.
The fourth signal.
Exactly. But that's also why it was dangerous to the established order. The galactic civilizations maintained stability through various forms of control. Benevolent control, but control nonetheless. The fourth signal was designed to enable consciousness development without control, to let a species choose its own path, even if that path led to failure.
But something went wrong on Mars.
The Zurtha discovered the joint operation. They saw it as a threat to their own plans for species development. The attack was swift and brutal. Elia died protecting the evacuation. But before she died, she gave Tavorian something. A genetic capsule containing their combined work. The fourth signal, ready to be planted.
And he planted it in humanity.
Against every law of his civilization. Against the direct orders of the Valari Council. He chose love over duty, hope over certainty, and gave our species something no other had ever received. The right to evolve without supervision.
Dr. Volkov's encounter was in 2019. 2 years later, her genetic analysis would reveal the same spiral markers found in the other bloodlines. The Valari had been monitoring their chosen families for millennia, waiting for the right moment to make contact. Waiting for someone like Mira Solen to activate what Tavorian had planted. Now let's map the global pattern that emerged after Mira's activation in the Cueva de los Tallos. Because what happened next wasn't random. It followed pathways that had been prepared over millennia. When you plot the 12 disappearance sites on a global map, they form a perfect geometric pattern. A 12-pointed star that encompasses the entire planet. Each point corresponds to a location where Earth's magnetic field shows subtle but persistent anomalies. And more importantly, where acoustic resonance creates natural amplification chambers.
The magnetic deviations at these 12 locations aren't natural. They're too precise, too mathematically perfect. It's as if someone placed beacons at specific coordinates designed to create a global harmonic network. When we analyzed the acoustic properties, we found something even more remarkable.
What did you find?
Each site has unique acoustic signatures that complement the others. The Cueva de los Tallos acts as a primary resonance chamber, but the other sites serve as harmonics. When Dr. Selen activated the first glyph, it sent out a signal that was received and amplified by caves, stone circles, and other structures around the world.
Dr. Nori Kim, the computational biologist analyzing the bloodline genetics for Aerolink Industries, discovered something equally remarkable about the human carriers.
Each bloodline carries different aspects of the enhancement. The Solen genetics focus on electromagnetic sensitivity and pattern recognition, perfect for activating the primary system. The Macready lineage specializes in harmonic frequency generation. They're natural resonators. The Reyes family shows enhanced neural plasticity for consciousness integration. When you combine all 12 genetic profiles, you get a complete blueprint for interfacing with whatever technology the fourth signal represents.
A technology that's revealing itself to be far more than simple alien artifacts. Dr. Kim's analysis suggests we're looking at a global consciousness network that's been dormant for 90,000 years.
The sites aren't just connected electromagnetically, they're connected informationally. Each activation sends data to the other sites, building a picture of human consciousness development over time. It's like someone has been taking snapshots of our species' evolution, waiting for the moment we'd be ready for the full download.
But there's a darker side to the pattern. Of the 12 original sites, only 3 are still actively monitored by families who maintain the awakening traditions. The other 9 bloodlines have either died out, been absorbed into populations where the genetic markers became too diluted to activate, or their carriers have disappeared under circumstances that suggest someone, or something, has been actively working to prevent the network from coming online.
We found evidence of systematic interference. Bloodline carriers experiencing accidents at crucial moments. Archaeological sites being damaged just before major discoveries. Research funding being mysteriously cut. It's as if there are forces that don't want humanity to access whatever the fourth signal contains.
Which raises the question, if Tavorian and Elia wanted to give humanity the gift of independent evolution, who wants to keep us from receiving it? The answer to that question comes from the deepest files in the Aerolink archive. Classified documents that reveal humanity isn't just awakening to its hidden potential. We're awakening to the fact that we've been under observation by multiple alien civilizations for far longer than anyone imagined. But the signs were always there, hidden in plain sight. Take Oumuamua, the interstellar object that visited our solar system in 2017. Official NASA reports called it a natural asteroid, but the classified files tell a different story. Listen to this leaked short from a classified interview from NASA's Deep Space Network.
The trajectory was wrong from the beginning. Natural objects don't accelerate without outgassing, and Oumuamua showed acceleration patterns that defied our models. But more disturbing were the electromagnetic signatures we detected, complex harmonic patterns that matched no known natural phenomenon.
Then came 2I/Borisov in 2019, another interstellar comet that exhibited behaviors that challenged conventional understanding of celestial mechanics. And now we have 3I Atlas.
Borisov's composition readings were inconsistent. One day it looked like a typical comet nucleus. The next it was emitting frequencies in the same range we'd started detecting from archaeological sites. It was as if these objects were somehow connected to the awakening events on Earth.
According to the fourth signal files, these weren't random visitors from interstellar space. They were reconnaissance probes, sent by civilizations that had been monitoring human development for millennia.
They know, somehow, despite all our precautions, the activation has been detected. The Zurtha are returning to reclaim what they see as their rightful property. The Greys are mobilizing to contain what they view as an uncontrolled experiment. And my own people, the Valari, are torn between wanting to observe and wanting to intervene.
Oumuamua wasn't just passing through. It was collecting data, analyzing the changes in Earth's electromagnetic signature as the fourth signal began to stir. 2I/Borisov was a follow-up survey, confirming that human consciousness was indeed approaching the activation threshold.
In retrospect, the timing makes perfect sense. Oumuamua arrived just as we started detecting the first anomalies at archaeological sites worldwide. Borisov showed up right before the major awakening events began. They weren't coincidences. They were intelligence-gathering missions.
The memory fragments archived in Dr. Solen's consciousness reveal a truth that changes everything about humanity's place in the cosmos. We aren't the first intelligent species to evolve on Earth. We're the latest.
The Zurtha were here first, millions of years ago. They seeded the planet with their genetic templates, expecting to create a reptilian civilization that would serve their expansion goals. But the asteroid impact that ended the dinosaurs wasn't natural. It was a Grey intervention to prevent Zurtha dominance.
The Greys then began their own careful cultivation of mammalian intelligence, guiding human evolution towards species that could serve their vision of galactic order. But both civilizations underestimated the Valari influence. Our harmonic technologies, designed to preserve rather than control, created pockets of true independence in human development.
Now all three civilizations are returning, drawn by the activation of the fourth signal. Each has their own agenda for humanity's future. And the interstellar visitors like Oumuamua and Borisov were just the advanced scouts. And 3I Atlas is still on its way.
The Greys will offer guidance, sophisticated, benevolent control that will solve humanity's problems while ensuring you never become a threat to galactic stability. The Zurtha will offer power, the chance to reclaim Earth's reptilian heritage through genetic reversion and controlled chaos. The Valari will offer wisdom, access to the galactic archives in exchange for accepting your role as junior partners in cosmic civilization.
But the fourth signal was designed to give you something none of them can offer. Choice. The right to refuse all three paths and write your own destiny. Even if that destiny leads to mistakes they've learned to avoid.
The files suggest that Dr. Solen's activation in the Cueva de los Tallos wasn't just the beginning of human awakening. It was the confirmation of data that Oumuamua and 2I/Borisov had been sent to collect. Every day the fourth signal remains active. It broadcasts humanity's evolutionary status to civilizations that have very different ideas about our species' future.
The choice is coming, children of Earth. Not the choice between good and evil, but between freedom and safety, between growth and stability, between the terrifying possibility of becoming something unprecedented and the comfortable certainty of accepting guidance from those who have walked this path before.
The files end there, but the story is far from over. Because if the archived memories are accurate, if the deep space observations are correct, then humanity stands at a crossroads that will determine not just our own future, but the future of consciousness itself in our corner of the galaxy. Dr. Mira Solen remains in the Cueva de los Tallos, working with an international team to decode the full scope of the fourth signal network. Other activation sites around the world are coming online, each one adding new voices to what researchers are calling the spiral choir. Humans whose genetic heritage allows them to interface directly with the ancient technology. But they're working against time. Because according to the most recent deep space observations, the three fleets are no longer content to watch from the outer system. They're coming. Next time on the Fourth Signal Files, we'll examine what happens when awakening humans begin to hear the songs of three different civilizations. We'll hear from the children, a new generation being born with active genetic modifications, who can perceive frequencies their parents can't imagine. And we'll reveal the contents of Transmission 0, the message that was never meant to be heard, containing Tavorian and Alia's final gift to humanity. And we'll discover that Dr. Mira Solen's experience in the caves wasn't first contact. It was a reunion. The awakening has only just begun, and already the watchers in the sky are deciding whether humanity deserves to hear the rest of the song, or whether our species needs to be silenced before we can sing along.
A clear soft hum, it draws me near, resonance rising, drowning feeling. Flowing weightless, the pulse grows loud, a phantom wind through the cosmic shroud. Symbols glowing, their meaning veiled, a map to nowhere, a story derailed. The void it sings, a melody torn, a song of endings where stars are born. Echoes in the abyss, they call my name, faint and haunting, never the same. A clear soft hum, it draws me near, resonance rising, drowning fear. Resonance rising, drowning fear. Falling upward, the silence breaks, a spiral of sound, a path it makes. Time collapses, the echoes bend, a loop eternal, no start, no end. Falling upward, the silence breaks, a spiral of sound, a path it makes. Time collapses, the echoes bend, a loop eternal, no start, no end. And no start, no end. Oh, controlling the final.